And with that, let me welcome Kate Pembrooke to our book club tonight. Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I enjoyed listening to all your little name game answers tonight. That was, I have not read Emily Henry's Book Lovers yet, but I can see I need to get that in my TBR. Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure.
Well, we'll definitely need to get your answers to the name game a little bit later on because we want to hear what you're also reading and listening to and watching.
Sure.
But first, for our readers that are unfamiliar with you, how did you get into writing? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Kate. I live in Northeast Ohio. I'll answer that part of the name game early on. And, I think as far as getting into the writing, it was something that was in the back of my head most of my life. I was a voracious reader as a kid. And I've read most of my life, not as voracious once I started having my own kids. But maybe in a few years, I can get back to being the book a day or book every other day kind of reader that I used to be years ago. And so my own kids got a little bit older and less hands-on. And I just one day decided, I think I'm going to start writing a book. And actually the idea for my debut novel came from a night of insomnia. I was lying in bed and just kind of making up a story in my head to entertain myself while I waited to fall asleep. And I was pretty fascinated by it. And so the next day, I just kept thinking about it. And so then I started writing it down. And so that was the genesis of my debut novel. So.
Well, I'm always fascinated by the inspiration that comes behind some of these thoughts, because when I was reading your bio, it seemed like when you really first started writing, you were doing more mysteries and.
Oh, well, as a teenager,
case,
that was kind of, that was, I did write some when I was younger. Not seriously, like nothing ever got finished, lots of starts, but of course, no endings ever were written down. I love mysteries. And in fact, my current read is a Janet Ivanovich. The one before that was a Harlan Coben. I'm in this, I don't know what it is. I go through spells. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm in a mystery. That's all I seem to want to read. So, yeah.
And how did that generate into writing a historical romance? Is that what you had been reading? Or?
I have read a lot of historical romance in my day. And I love Jane Austen. Mm-hmm. That was really my first love as far as like a historical setting, and Regency England was fascinating to me. And then I discovered some of the more romantic Regency romance writers like Julia Quinn and Tessa Dare and Lisa Kleypas and Eloisa James. And, I could go on and on, Loretta Chase. And so that's what it was kind of that marriage of my love for Jane Austen, my love for history, and my love for those authors who just entertained me. I could just get lost in their books and spend the whole day reading if my family would allow it. So that's really where I got into it. Yeah.
And I'm big fans of all of those authors too, and familiar with a lot of their characters. Mm-hmm. And I think a common theme, in addition to the entertainment aspect, there is a lot of times they have very strong women.
Yes.
As their heroines, right? Yes. And that's a big part of the storyline. I think that was also a case with your book here, right? I mean, again, it's ladies of Mayfair, but they're living outside, the common strictures of society.
Yeah.
Was that an important part for you to pull into the whole series?
It wasn't really something that I designed, I have to admit. But it's just those characters kind of spoke to me. And Serena, when I wrote my debut novel, my first book, she was a secondary character. I didn't really plan her. As I was writing that book, she kind of appeared in a scene one day. And a lot of times my characters, I feel like I know them, even though I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about them sometimes. I do with my main characters, but Serena just showed up. And I knew she was very bolder than a lot of Regency misses, and definitely bolder than the heroine of my first book. And so, when that was the second book in the series, she was a little bit harder for me to write because I'm kind of the quiet person in the room, that listens, but isn't always jumping in. And so she was different, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of exploring what it would be like to be someone as bold as that heroine. Yeah.
One of the other things with both the characters in this book is they're really kind of on the fringe of society. I mean, they're respectable,
right?
But they're not really part of the 10. I mean, again, kind of alluding to the secrets we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
some things that are holding them back. Did that make the story easier to write, that you're kind of working on the fringe, or was that harder?
No, I don't think it was harder. Serena is more, she's more, I mean, she is part of the aristocracy. The hero, Charles, he is solidly middle class. He is not part, and that definitely puts him on the outside looking in a lot of ways. But Serena, because of her boldness and because some people in society considered her a little fast, shall we say, so she was kind of on the outside too, even though her father was an earl. And so, you know, she could pretty much go to any of the Regency parties she wished to go to, except for the highest sticklers, perhaps. But yeah, no, I just, you know, I'm a pantser when I write. So for those of you who don't know what that is, I just write by the seat of my pants. I try to get a good handle on who my main characters are before I start. But as far as plotting goes, there's really no plotting, except I know I'm working toward a happily ever after. And I just sit down and start writing and see what happens and where the characters take me. So nothing was by design.
With that, and how you said sometimes the characters come to you, and especially Serena in this case, but then also with the first book that, you know, it was a case of insomnia and these characters were really just coming to you. So how are you capturing that? And how do they appear to you? Is it that they essentially are springing full blown from your brain? Are you picturing a movie? Are they talking to you?
You know, it's kind of that they spring full blown, although they're not completely full blown, because I discover a lot of aspects to their character as I start just kind of my mind noodles at them and thinks about them and wonders what they'd be doing, or maybe a scene will come into my mind and I just noodle around with, okay, this is what I know about this person. How would they behave here? And so with my debut novel, Not the Kind of Girl You Marry, that opening scene, the first chapter, it's all about, there's a fake betrothal published in the newspaper, and the hero and the heroine have never met. They don't know each other, and the hero thinks it's an entrapment scheme, and so he goes to confront the heroine. And that scene kind of was in my mind. I knew there was a fake betrothal. I knew he was confronting the heroine. I had no idea why the fake betrothal had shown up. That was something I had to discover as I wrote that book. But, you know, and I knew a lot about them. I knew she was more of a wallflower and kind of like myself, kind of quiet, prefers to kind of keep in the corner and not be in the spotlight. And he was, you know, one of the most eligible bachelors in London and very popular. So I knew a lot of that stuff when I started that book, as far as who they were, and that there was this confrontational scene that kicked off how they met. But beyond that, I had to start writing it, and then it came to me. It's just my process. I don't love it, but it's how I am. I've tried to plot, it never works.
Do you start taking notes for your subsequent books? Since Serena and Charles both appeared in the first one, and the hero and heroine for the next book appears in this book, do you start laying those hints already, or?
Usually I lay those hints after the manuscript's more complete. Not so much as it goes along, although every once in a while there might be a certain element that I think of along the way. But generally speaking, no. If I think of something that I think needed to be in like book 2 to lead into book 3, I had to put that in later. There's not a whole lot. I book 3, I didn't want to be confined with too much, so I tried to not do a whole lot. So I had a emptier canvas when it came to writing book 3 than I had with book 2, because I did feel there was a lot in book 2 that I I had in book one. And so I had to go along with that, even if maybe I had wanted to change it, which I didn't necessarily, but I did feel a little bit boxed in because of what had gone on in the first book. And so.
Well, one thing about this book, I mean, we all are wanting the happily ever after and the love story, but you had me with, this was a slow burn.
It was a very slow burn.
You knew these were the two meant for each other. You knew, okay, they're going to connect. But as I was reading it, it's like, okay, now. And no, you yank it away and make them wait yet again. You were killing me with this, Kate.
Well, you know what? They frustrated me too, to be quite honest. But because of who Charles was, it had to really wait till the end of the story. It really, really, really did. And that all figures into a secret, so I don't want to give too many things away. But I did, it was frustrating. There was a part of me, but I just felt it wouldn't be true to his character if I had them give in a little bit earlier than they did.
It still flowed. I was like, oh, this is great. And okay. And I understand why. But each time I was like, oh,
I know they frustrated me too. I really, they did. They truly, truly, truly did. But I felt to be true, especially to the hero, Charles, I couldn't do anything earlier than what happened.
And I have to admit, I also didn't expect it at first when I read the summary of the book, because again, it's the ladies of Mayfair, and that they are kind of on the edge of things and seeing how they can be disruptful and helping society. I was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah.
I guess.
A little bit more, yeah. A little bit earlier. Yes. Which is not to say nothing at all happens.
No.
But
no, I'm saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It really, that was just being true to the hero, because he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Now Serena, the heroine, she would have.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And how is that entire process then? It's an area sometimes we get into and we don't, but really putting that all out on the page sometimes, is that again where it's flowing, you've got the notes. Do you need to go back and flesh that out later, or?
You always go back and flesh stuff out a little bit, but honestly, I wrote this book pretty linearly, just chapter to chapter to chapter to chapter. Mm-hmm. Now that said, I will say my editor, this book had a lot more chopping and cutting and moving than my first book did. So even though I wrote it linearly, some stuff got moved up a little bit forward, chapters got cut. So that part was hard, but generally speaking, it's how they take me through the story is what I write. And so that's generally my flow.
Now I have another offbeat question for you. Mm-hmm. I understand that you are a big collector of cookbooks.
I do. I have too many.
What are the features that make it the perfect cookbook for you? What are the things you're really looking for?
It's a very eclectic collection, but I will say, since I signed my book contract, I'm looking for quick meals, quick and tasty meals. So there's a lot of crockpot stuff because I can dump it in the morning and not worry about it. Bread machine. I like my bread machine. I'm actually one of those people who uses them pretty faithfully. I know a lot of people get them and then they go sit in the closet. And there have been some times, like I said, especially since I got the book contract, I used to do a lot more totally from scratch. But it just depends. I have country cooking cookbooks to more modern. We really enjoy Mexican food, so I have a lot that have that. But lately, I would say it's the quicker cooking. The 30-minute meals. I have some Rachel Ray, express cooking, 30 minutes to dinner kind of thing that I'm turning to.
So these are actual cookbooks to use, not just to flip through and look at the pictures.
Oh, no. I have to say they're all functional cookbooks. Yes. In fact, if it were closer, I'd have to go in the other room. I would show you my favorite cookbook, which is literally falling apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just because you've used it just that often? Everything's dog-eared, stains.
Yes. I got it. Actually, my husband had it when we first got married. It was his, which I don't think he had even used it, but whatever. And I used that as an early bride, and discovered some recipes that we love, and so I've turned to it for many years. I won't say how many, but many.
Well, it's just another form of books for us, right?
It is. And but you get some tasty food too. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have to admit, my cookbooks don't quite get as much use out of them.
Oh, okay.
And for me, it's got to have the picture is kind of that inspiration of, okay, is this actually something that I might have a small chance of actually cooking? And I know everybody's laughing out there that knows me because I don't cook that much.
Not a big
but I have a lot of cookbooks.
Do you really? Well, that's interesting. So yours are the prettier cookbooks then, you're saying?
It's a mix. I've got a lot of the pretty ones and then also unusual ones, or from different countries and unusual recipes like that. And
okay. Yeah, mine are much more practical, functional. I'm looking for meals I want to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to have the mix, right?
Yeah. But nothing's really super gourmet. I don't have the patience to spend hours on cooking. So
hey, I'm a microwave lady myself. So
microwaves. Yeah.
Now, with all of that, especially kind of focusing on finding those 30-minute quick dishes on things, what is your writing day like?
Well, generally speaking, I like to get started fairly early in the morning. And when I'm close to deadline, fairly early can be 5 or 6 a.m. But generally speaking, it's more like 8 or 9, maybe 10. And then I try to write until 3 or 4. And then that's when it's time to start getting dinner ready and getting it on the table, especially if we have somewhere to go that evening. And then generally speaking, I try not to write in the evenings too much, but when I'm close to deadline after dinner, my husband goes and washes the dishes and I come back in my office here and tap away at my keyboard for another hour or 2. I don't like to do that typically, though. That's a little much in a day, I think.
And do you find that you stick to that same schedule when you're working on revisions and edits, or is that mostly just for the initial getting the story down on paper?
Revisions and edits, I tend to stick with that schedule, especially the early edits. Once I get to copy edits, it doesn't typically take me as long, but those initial edits, like I said, this book, Say You'll Be My Lady, there was a lot of moving around, and that's a cascading effect. Then if you move something up earlier or if you move it back later, then in those earlier chapters where there might have been reference to it, you got to move all those out because it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting process.
And so do you insert notes into your manuscript with that? Or are you searching for things, or?
I'm a big Post-it note person. I tend to put Post-it notes up on a wall or on a closet door, reminding me of what I need to do, like chapter 7, if there's something I need to add in there that for whatever reason, I'm not doing it right now. That's what I do. I have Post-its. I don't know. I have a thing for Post-it notes. I have to admit, don't get me in an office supply store. I'm going to come out with some Post-it notes.
Well, Kate, I want to go ahead and switch over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. Okay. These are some quick answer elements off the top of your head.
Okay.
Over a variety of subjects.
Okay.
Since you're such a voracious reader, what is your favorite trope to read?
Okay. Well, my favorite trope, I actually put in my debut novel, Not the Kind of Girl You Marry, and it is either fake engagement or fake relationship. It's just catnip to me. I could read those over and over and over. I love it.
What is the trope you never hope to see again?
I won't say never, but I have to say that generally secret babies aren't my favorite. But sometimes people just do it so well, I just love it. But generally speaking, that's not my favorite.
Secret babies are a big debate topic.
They are. I think you either love them or you don't love them,
Usually how it turns out. Yeah. What about genres? What is a genre that you think you never want to read again?
Oh gosh. I'm not a real big fantasy or sci-fi reader these days. I couldn't say never, but rarely.
Who was your first book boyfriend or girlfriend?
Oh gosh, I think it might have been Mr. Darcy.
Oh, well, Jane Austen. Okay.
Yeah.
Big fan there. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I loved Nancy Drew as a kid, but I wouldn't say Ned Nickerson was my book boyfriend. But Mr. Darcy was definitely my book boyfriend.
What is your favorite writing fuel?
My favorite is probably something with caffeine, which is usually a Diet Coke. But I try not to drink too much, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes a good cold Diet Coke, it'll get you over that hump, right?
Yeah, sometimes it just hits the spot. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, I drink iced tea or water.
How do you celebrate a new release?
Usually we go out to dinner.
Ooh. Fancy restaurant or just to get out and have somebody else cook?
Not too fancy, but I do like steak. So usually it's a steakhouse of some type.
What era would you like to live in? Assuming some kind of real or not conveniences, imaginary world type stuff.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't mind the Regency, to be quite honest, especially London among the aristocracy and with balls and carriages. I think that would be fun, but I would be ignoring the fact that hygiene wasn't always perfect and dental care wasn't always perfect and there were no antibiotics. So like if we ignore all that stuff, then I would like that.
Yeah, see, the lack of bathrooms is always one of those things that just kind of holds us all up, right? It's like,
yes, you just got to ignore all
modern
that.
Plumbing.
Yes, modern plumbing and electricity. I have to say, I like both those. I'm not a camper.
What character from any of your books would you want to be friends with?
Oh gosh, I think any of the ladies I would enjoy to be friends with. And I have to say, I always have a little bit of a crush on all the heroes I write, which I think is a good thing in a romance writer.
If you couldn't be a writer, what would you do?
Oh gosh. I'll tell you a funny story, or maybe it's just funny to me, but I'll tell you the story anyway. So a few years back, I think I was always one of those people, what do I want to do when I grow up? You know, how that's always the hard question to answer when you're younger. And I'm not sure I ever fully answered it. A few years ago, I had a dream and I woke up and I was just like, that's what I want to be, for that first moment when you're kind of not fully awake. And it was working with elephants.
Wow.
So maybe that's my answer. That if I could be anything in the world, I don't know if elephant trainer is the right thing, but I just that dream, I was just like, I found what I want to do. When I woke up, I had that definite feeling and I found what I want to do.
Now, granted, not something you can just go down to the local mall or office building and do.
No,
a little bit more preparation there.
No, so not very realistic, but that's my answer.
What is your favorite errand to do on your day off?
Favorite? I don't know that I have a favorite errand. I will say if I lived near a beach, my favorite thing to do would be any excuse to have to go to the beach for something. That would be my favorite errand. I do not live near a beach, but I'm hoping to change that in the future.
Well, if you suddenly found yourself stuck on an island which has a beach.
Yes, please.
What 3 things would you absolutely have to have with you?
Oh gosh. Well, I would probably need some huge anthology of a book. 2 other things. I guess, what would I want on an island? That's a hard one. I almost think, okay, I'm on the island. It's a beach. My favorite thing. I mean, my favorite vacation are beach vacations with a book on the beach is my favorite thing. So I'm going to have my big fat anthology with, forget the anthology. I'm going to have my loaded Kindle. That's what I'm going to have because that's a lot better than a big fat anthology book. And I want some sort of like tent you know, to sit beneath with a comfortable lounge chair and like a nice big fridge with all kinds of cool drinks on a hot day. Those are the 3 things I want.
That would work.
It would work for me. That's kind of my ideal vacation. So
okay,
that would be what I would want on a desert island.
What childish thing do you still do as an adult?
I do like to still read children's books. I was just talking with my daughter the other day, and I said, you know, I think I want to read some of my favorite books from childhood again. I mean, I have done that through the years, but I hadn't done it lately. So,
oh, wow. That's one of the one of the squares on our book club bingo is to go back and read a childhood story.
Yeah.
It's been interesting in some of the discussions of what people are picking.
Yeah, and in fact, the other day, because I'm on this mystery kick, I was like, you know, I loved Nancy Drew back when I was in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. And I just thought I would like to go back and read one because I haven't read one in years and years and years and years. And just see if I like them, you know, what I think of them reading it as an adult versus as a kid who just devoured them and read them multiple times, you know. So that would be my childish thing that I enjoy to do.
What luxury item or unnecessary product or service can you absolutely not live without?
I don't know if this is a luxury item, but I will say one of my favorite things that feels luxurious is I have a foot massager.
Ooh.
And I love that. I like to walk when the weather's nice. And, you know, if you've been walking a lot or on your feet a lot, it feels so good before you go to bed to just slip your feet in there. It's heated and it massages my feet. So I like that. That's how I pamper myself, is with my foot massager. So thank you, kids, for getting that for me a few Christmases back.
Any other hints as to what else they could then get, perhaps?
Oh gosh. Well, they know I love gift cards. They know I love gift cards, so that's always good. But
other than cookbooks, because I'm not going to give you the easy answer here, right?
Okay.
What do you own a ridiculous amount of?
Well, I mean, I own a ridiculous amount of books because when we moved to this house, one of my son's friends helped several of my son's friends helped us move some of the boxes, and everybody complained about my boxes of books because they're heavy and there were a lot. And I will say, and I've alluded to this earlier, I have a ridiculous amount of Post-it notes, which I kind of keep put away in a couple boxes discreetly in a closet. So my husband doesn't know quite how many I have because it's really beyond my lifetime's use. But I love Post-it notes. I don't know. And I'll find a new color at the office store. They'll have put out, you know, they have those themes like Miami and Havana and Bogota or whatever, you know, in these colors. And I can't help. I have to buy some. I don't have that color. I love that color. So I have that. I have quite a few colored pens too.
You know, when you're having to hide them, that's when it's a problem. Sorry.
A little bit. I did just organize them the other day. So
ooh,
in the boxes. They were getting a little sloppy.
Where you could organize them almost in different ways depending on what your mood is, huh?
Yeah. I kind of put them up size-wise this time, but you know.
What is the most terrible movie that you legitimately enjoy?
Oh gosh, the most terrible movie I legitimately enjoy. I don't know if there is a terrible movie I legitimately enjoy. I don't know. You know, I can't think of one that's terrible that I enjoy. I guess if I enjoy it, I think it's good.
Okay. We can take that. That's all right.
Yeah.
Kind of goes into then going back to the name game. What is it that you're currently reading, watching, and listening to?
Well, like I said, I'm on a mystery kick. So Harlan Coben and Janet was the last read before the Janet Ivanovich I'm reading now. Mm-hmm. I just started The Flight Attendant on HBO Max. Again, kind of a thriller mystery. My husband and I do like to watch Survivor together, and we're 2 episodes behind now, or we will be as of tonight. So we got to get caught up. Listening to, I'm kind of in between audiobooks right now. But usually I'm listening to a romance, usually a historical romance. on audio, but not exclusively. And the funny thing is, as much as I like to read mysteries, I do not like to listen to mysteries. If something distracts me for a few seconds or a minute or two, I feel like I've lost the thread. Like with mysteries, you know, you could miss an important clue if you kind of get distracted because someone's trying to talk to you or need something from you. So, and was there another part of that?
It
Listening,
was
watching, reading.
The reading, watching, and listening.
Okay.
Yep. Because I've got the same thing when I listen to stuff. There's some things I can listen to.
Yeah.
And but I won't read, and things that I read all the time, but oh no, I can't listen to it. It just, I can't pay attention, or it freaks me out, or just can't do it.
Yeah. Horror. I don't listen to horror. That's a genre I will never read. There you go. That's the genre.
And do you listen to things while you're writing?
Well, music or sometimes baseball. But other than that, no. Like, and sometimes I don't listen to anything. It just depends on my mood.
Okay. What can readers look forward to you next?
Well, the third book is almost finished. So that is Phoebe and Simon, if you happen to have read the second book. So that's the third book in the series. And then after that, I can't say that I have a 3-book contract, but hopefully I'll have some more books under contract before too long.
And how can our readers and listeners stay in touch with you and keep up with what all you're doing?
Well, I have a website, which is www.katepembrook.com. I am on Facebook. I have a reader group, and that is where I'm most likely found on Facebook. I have an author page too, but generally I'm talking more to people in the reader group, which is Kate Pembrook's Regency Roses, if you want to find it and ask to join. I'm on Twitter, but not a whole lot. I do have a Twitter account and you will see me there, but Instagram is really probably the other place besides my Facebook reader group that you can find me online pretty regularly.
Great. Well, with that information, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well,
and we look forward to you sticking around for our Q&A with our readers and listeners.
Sure.